Josh Green is going to win Most Improved Player this upcoming NBA season. Listen, I'm going to level with you guys, okay? The propaganda well is running dry. We had to make layoffs at the slightly biased State Department. First time in history we've had to do that. The propaganda there's never been this little propaganda. So I decided, why not go down the Dallas Mavericks roster and talk about each individual player. Make a delusional video about each and every player on the Mavs roster. And who better to start with than Josh Green, one of the most polarizing figures in Mavs lore. This player, third-year player, potential to make a huge leap forward. Why not spread some propaganda, huh? And if you like this propaganda, why not spread this video? Share it, like it, comment, subscribe. I mean, the regular YouTuber spiel. Mavs fans, myself included, hell, if you followed my channel, you know I've been a big Josh Green supporter. I have the Josh Green cam on streams that I go to every time Josh Green does something good. It feels a little bit patronizing now that he's about to be a third-year player, but still, I have been a big Josh Green supporter throughout his time as a Dallas Maverick. But we had semi-high expectations for him heading into his rookie season and even his second season in the league, which maybe isn't that fair considering he was an 18th overall pick. And if you look at the last 10 18th overall picks before Josh Green, you got Goga, Lonnie Walker, TJ Leaf, Henry Ellison, Sam Decker, Tyler Ennis, Shane Larkin, Terrence Jones, Chris Singleton, Eric Bledsoe. I mean, this isn't the who's who of NBA players. Pick only starts to look bad whenever you look at it in the context of the 2020 NBA draft and who was selected right after Josh Green. You have Tyrese Maxey, you have Sadiq Bey, you have Desmond Bane, all of these players who made immediate impacts and they would have fit needs for the Dallas Mavericks. So it feels a little bit gross looking back in retrospect, but there's still light at the end of the tunnel for Josh Green. I'm here to tell you right now, he does not look like a complete and total lost cause. Let's start with some of the positives, okay? First and foremost, Josh Green is a fantastic athlete. In fact, he might be and probably is the best athlete on the team, which speaks a lot to the Dallas Mavericks roster construction, okay? He was 5th in lane agility drills, 2nd in shuttle run time, and 7th in three-quarter sprint time at the combine. Huh? How about those stats? Do these stats relate to NBA success at all? I don't know, because Devon Dotson dominated all 3 of these stats, and he has 135 total minutes in the NBA. But what I do know is that agility and athleticism is on full display when you watch Josh Green play defense. This is the major strength for Josh Green, okay? Josh Green is a legitimately good defender, all right? He moves well defensively and is able to stay in front of even some of the quicker guards in the league. Here's him staying in front of a tough Jalen Green drive with a full head of steam. Get that shot out of here. This is why at times throughout the year, I thought Josh Green could see significant minutes in the postseason, sticking guys like Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. That ended up not being the case, but we'll get into why later. It's not because of his defense, I promise you that. His defense, you know how on offense, people describe somebody's offensive game as herky-jerky? That's kind of how I feel about whenever I watch Josh Green. It feels very herky-jerky. Like, it feels that any given minute, he could just completely slip and get his ankles broken, but it seems like he always recovers every single time. I don't know how to explain it. It's very weird. Like, it seems like he's always off balance, but he's on balance. I don't know how to describe it. It speaks to his agility. Maybe the best skill that he has defensively is his motor. He is insanely active. And I will say this. Most of the time people say something like that, oh, well, he hustles. It's pretty much a nice way to say this guy sucks, but Josh Green legitimately is all over the floor defensively. Here he is aggressively showing on DeMar DeRozan, forcing a pass out to Zach LaVine, and aggressively closing out, forcing a tough contested 3 and a miss. Hey, great defense, Josh. This motor led to him leading the Mavs in steals per 75 possessions at 1.6, placing him in the 93rd percentile across the entire NBA. He was also 81st in pass deflections. So he's all over the place. He's playing passing lanes, and a lot of that speaks to his good defensive instincts. He does legitimately have good defensive instincts, and it feels like more often than not, he's in the right spot defensively. And I will say, it's pretty fun to watch Josh Green fly around the court. His 1.5 defensive miles traveled per 75 possessions, yes, that is a legitimate stat, was 3rd in the entire NBA, trailing only Gary Payton and Caleb Martin, 2 pretty highly thought of defenders and very capable wing defenders. And with all of this in mind, it's easy to see why the Mavericks defense performs better when Josh Green is on the court. They allow nearly 2.5 points per 100 possessions less when Josh Green plays. Now, before oh my God, you can't use on-off stats, slightly biased, you fucking idiot, because he barely plays. He only plays in garbage time. Yeah, I'm aware, man. It's the middle of August, and I'm making a video about Josh Green. You think I care about any of that? And we'll get to his weaknesses offensively here in a bit, but his athleticism does show up offensively, and he does have some strengths on offense, okay? It's not a complete and total lost cause over there. Nobody on the Dallas Mavericks runs in transition more than Josh Green when he's on the floor. In fact, when Josh Green is playing, the Dallas Mavericks push the ball much more frequently than when he's not playing. This is nice because transition opportunities often lead to free points. And yes, the Mavericks have a very slow and methodical game. They played the slowest pace out of anybody in the NBA this past year, and that's good and that's nice, right? Especially whenever we get to the playoffs, it's nice knowing, okay, this team knows how to slow down and play in a half-court setting. But it's also nice to run out in transition sometimes. And last year, the Mavs just really didn't do it. So if Josh Green gets more opportunities, maybe we see more transition opportunities for the Mavs. There's Luka getting out in transition and throwing up a lob to Josh Green. Ow! You're telling me Luka can't find Josh Green in transition, this generational playmaker? Yeah, right. Josh Green averages 1.28 points per possession in transition, placing him in the 79th percentile. You know what? Let's round up and say 80th. This is higher than Giannis, LeBron, Devin Booker, even John Morant. Yeah, this is what I'm doing, okay? This is what I'm all about. Cutting is also a strength of Josh Green offensively. He averages 1.4 points per possession on cuts, putting him in the 73rd percentile. And you know what? Let's round up to 80. I mean, I'm not going to tell if you don't. This is probably his biggest strength in a half-court setting. He's a smart cutter. His instincts, I talked about his instincts when I was talking about his defense. He does seem like a smart player, and he fills the gaps incredibly well offensively. He seems to always be where the defender is not. And this plays great alongside an incredibly gifted playmaker like Luka Doncic. And also, I mean, even Spencer Dinwiddie, who's a pretty good passer in his own right, too. This could definitely help the offense open things up. I will say sometimes he moves around a little bit too much on offense. Like, here's an example right here of him cutting when Luka's trying to post up and he brings his defender to Luka. Now, it all worked out in the end for the Mavericks, but still, I think that this was maybe not a great cut for Josh Green. But his ability as a cutter is obvious. And he's also legitimately good. Like, legitimately good. Not just, I'm trying to hype him up and spread propaganda and be delusional, but he is legitimately good passing out of drives. He's just a good passer in general, honestly. He's in the 90th percentile across the entire NBA, and that's not me rounding up. All right, that's actually his number. Let's actually bump that up a little bit to 95, huh? But he's in the 90th percentile on drive assist rate in the NBA, getting an assist on nearly 15% on all of his drives. Did you know Josh Green had a game this season where he had 10 assists and 1 turnover? I did know that, but I guess I forgot it. Yeah, it was against the Portland Trailblazers, man. Shut up! Rewatching this game against the Blazers, some of these assists, I mean, they're no joke, right? He's setting up teammates on the drive. He's kicking out. He's having acrobatic in-air dump-offs, wrapping passes around defenders. It's pretty impressive what we see. Now, of course, some of these were just the defense, I mean, not knowing what the fuck's going on. I mean, what's going on here, guys? Hey, get back on defense. You might want to cover this guy right here. Remember when was a Dallas Maverick? Terrible times. So cutting, transition, passing, these are all legitimate strengths for Josh Green offensively, and they'll only get better once defenses are forced to actually having to respect Josh Green as an offensive player. Which, if I'm just being blunt, it's going to make or break his career, okay? If he can't force defenses to respect him as a shooter or as somebody who can attack the rim off the dribble, then I don't know what his career looks like in the NBA, to be 100% honest with you. Listen, what we saw in the postseason, it was rough. Okay, I'm just going to call it like it was. It was rough. He averaged 1.4 points per game on 26% shooting. 26. Okay, let's not round that up. And he was eventually played out of the rotation entirely, getting DNPs at points in the postseason, or 1 minute in garbage time, whatever. Those numbers are honestly even worse when you consider the fact that neither the Jazz nor the Suns were respecting him whatsoever. I mean, they had zero interest in putting a body anywhere near Josh Green. You could see how this makes life difficult for everybody else offensively, especially when the Jazz were cool with sticking Gobert on Josh Green. In reality, Gobert is just sitting in the paint, just sitting in the paint. Josh Green's wide open out in the corner. Rudy Gobert could care less. But, I will say there is a sect of Mavs fandom who believes if Josh Green finished this play right here, if Josh Green finishes this play right here, he has a huge breakout postseason and is the story of the entire playoffs. So the Dallas Mavericks are defending world champions. I'm not saying that's me, but there are some people who believe that. It is me. It really is hard to see Josh Green being a big-time postseason contributor if he doesn't at least develop a respectable jump shot. And not just that, but he develops the willingness to actually shoot those open threes. Mavs' offensive rating was nearly 15 points worse than the Dallas Mavericks' offensive rating. 15 points worse. 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 15 points worse when Josh Green was on the floor in the postseason. 15 points worse. 78% of his shots in the playoffs, 78 were wide open. That was the most in the NBA by far among players who had at least one shot per game in the playoffs. The most, 78%. That's an absurd number. And he shot 26%. But still, I do not think his offense is a lost cause. I really don't. Offensively, it seems like Josh Green is a complete and total confidence player. He needs confidence. If the confidence isn't there for one reason or another, if it's he's missing shots or he's getting sporadic playing time, whatever the case may be, his offense is just not going to be there. His shot's not going to be there. And I think worse than all of that, his willingness to shoot and his confidence to shoot is just completely and totally gone, which you really can't have in a postseason setting. You can't have a guy who is just completely and totally unwilling to be a part of the offense, especially considering, Josh Green defensively is a good player, but it's not like a Matisse Thybulle situation. We're talking like generational level defense. And even then, Matisse Thybulle barely plays in the playoffs. There is some optimism for his jump shot. And this is why I was kind of confused in the playoffs, because towards the end of the season, Josh Green was legitimately shooting the ball pretty well. He was shooting 41% from three on over 1.5 attempts per game over the last 23 games of the season. I know that's not gigantic numbers, not eye-popping numbers, but that's pretty solid for a guy who's just asked to go out there and catch and shoot threes. If you're defense and a guy is shooting 41% on open threes, you got to put a body on that. I mean, that's too high of a percentage. You have to acknowledge that. He just has to find it consistently. And if he gets a bump in playing time this upcoming season, those numbers have to go up to 2.5, 3 attempts per game. Like, that's just where those numbers are going to have to be. Thankfully, everything that he said so far this offseason has been good. It seems like he's working. He took the benching in the postseason to heart. He wants to get better. Everybody is saying that he's been the hardest working Mav so far. He hasn't left the facility. And I know what those reports can be like. Like, what else are you going to say? What is a player going to say? Yeah, I suck dick. And to be honest with you, it's fine. I'm cool. I'm cool with sucking. But still, it is nice to hear. It's nice to see. Again, for me, it's just a confidence thing for Josh Green. It's not really things on the court that he can get better at. Obviously, there is stuff on the court he can get better at. But I just want him to have the confidence to go out and do the things he's capable of doing. Shooting open threes when you have the chance. Passing, driving, passing out of drives. And if he fails on a couple of possessions, then so be it. That's just the way it's going to have to be. He's still a third-year player, right? There's still plenty of room to develop there. So I'll keep holding out hope. And you know what? I saw somebody say something that perfectly summarizes Josh Green. If he just gets a little bit better, he becomes a lot better. His skill set is very valuable in today's NBA. Somebody who can defend, good athlete, can get out in transition, can run the floor, can shoot threes, spot up threes whenever he's open, and has some ability to attack the rim and pass out of that. I mean, if things all pan out, that's a guy who's making $15 to $20 million in today's NBA. That's just the way that it works. So I'm still a believer in Josh Green, and you should be too. You want some more propaganda? All right, fine. I'll give you some. The Mavs were 22-5 in games where Josh Green scored 5 points or more. That's over a 60 win pace. So there you go. Oh my God, you only scored 5 points in 27 games. Shut up. Shut up. Can't you see what we're doing here? Jesus. The Mavs were 7-1 in games where Josh Green scored 10 or more points. That's a 71 win pace. So there you go, Dallas. There you go, Jason Kidd. I solved it for you. I solved the puzzle. If you want to be a historically great team, feed Josh Green.